Today we're sorting our Biel-Tans from our Alaitocs, our Saim-Hanns from our Ulthways. Let's talk about the leaked Craftworld rules from the new Codex. Hello and welcome back to Warsbets Tactics, where today we're talking more Eldar. Codex Aeldari is finally releasing at the weekend, and though we've had plenty of leaked rules for a really long time, we're now actually starting to get some pages come out from the Codex, and the first ones that appear to have gone around the internet are the full rules for all the actual individual craft worlds, so we now know how they're going to be functioning in 9th edition. From the old Codex, I think the vast majority of the craft worlds were fairly weak compared with other faction-specific rules. The most competitive Eldar lists did tend to use all the custom craft world traits that they could get, usually combining things like expert crafters or masterful shots or something different, as the flat damage buff just tended to outweigh anything that the actual craft worlds could offer. Certainly seemed like it was an area that was ripe for reimagining, and it does look like quite a lot of these are going to be stronger this time round. I think Ulthwe in particular is looking all round strong. In any case, let's take a look through them and see what we've got. First up, we have the sneaky and shadowy craft world of Alaitoc. Currently they get a -1 to hit at greater than 12 inches. It was really good in 8th edition when you could stack modifiers, but less so now. They've traded that -1 to hit for getting light cover if they're shot by something over 12 inches away, and they do also get dense cover for any of their infantry and bikers if they're within terrain and also greater than 12 inches away. They're also a bit less easily slowed than other Eldar, ignoring any modifiers to their movement or advances. Defense-wise, I think this was maybe a bit of a side grade. Some units already like that light cover at range, particularly anything with a 3+ save like vehicles, but a fair few things really might not care all that much. Any of the aspects with a 4+ armor save won't care too much. There's a good chance they might be saving down to their invul save anyway. It does look like it'll play well with rangers though, who get the bonus to their saves if they do get light cover, so allowing them to basically get it anywhere is pretty handy, and I'm sure the modifiers thing will come in handy from time to time, maybe if you're charging into or out of difficult ground perhaps. Overall though, it still seems fine. I'm not sure if it's got massively stronger though. Otherwise, their warlord trait is Master of Ambush. This is a command phase buff that allows a core unit to shoot while doing actions, and also at the start of the game you get to redeploy one unit of rangers anywhere 9 inches away from enemy models and the enemy's deployment zone. Potentially could be a good way to either block movement, do an action or something, or just get line of sight on an important enemy HQ. First turn redeploys are generally quite nice. For me it's that second bit that's the most interesting part of the trait. Seems usable enough if you are taking some rangers. Their relic is the Shift Shroud of Alancer. This one's an infantry only one, and it means that you can't be shot while receiving the benefit of cover unless you're the closest and also the enemy's within 12 inches. Should mean that most of the time the enemy won't be able to shoot the character at all greater than 12 inches away due to the Alaitoc Craftworld Attributes. Finally, their stratagem is for 1 command point Pathfinder Ambush, and this one's basically an intercept style rule on any one unit of Alaitoc Rangers. It means if the enemy turns up from reserve, it's 1 command point to get a few long rifle shots off at them. I believe that this would only be usable on the Rangers squad, as it doesn't appear that the Shroud Runners have the Rangers keyword, at least not in that datasheet from Eldritch Omens. I can understand why really. It would be a pretty crazy amount of firepower to be able to fire just for 1 command point with all those scatter lasers. The stratagem does also have a second part. If you have a Ranger unit in strategic reserve, then you can set it up on the battlefield less than 18 inches from the enemy and then shoot them, kind of doing a bit of a trick similar to the Necron death marks. Seems okay to me. Certainly for a bit of extra shooting for 1 CP it's not bad, but it doesn't look like Rangers are going to have the best damage output, even with Ballistic Skill 2+ and extra AP on their rifles. Overall, seems alright. I'm not convinced that Alaitoc are probably going to be one of the strongest ones though. Next up we come to Iyanden. Their Craftworld attribute is Stoic Endurance. It was previously mainly just about leadership and vehicle damage tables. Now it's +1 to your combat attrition roll, and it has actually got a small defensive buff built into it. Any AP -1 attacks become AP 0, and any AP -2 attacks become AP -1. The combat attrition thing's a bit neither here or there. Eldar tend to have fairly small squads and quite good leadership. I suppose it might not hurt though on big Guardian squads and stuff. The AP defense thing really is quite nice though. It won't help out against everything, but that's going to be quite a lot of enemy firepower that's slightly blunted. Their warlord trait, Enduring Resolve, is a 5+ Feel No Pain type save. Not too bad, but has a lot more value in armies where they actually have really big, tough, meaty HQs to bear it. I feel like a Toughness 3 Eldar HQ still isn't going to be that hard to kill, even with this. Their relic is the Citronome of Iyanden, which I think has improved a little bit. Previously, it was a once per game melee boost that also damaged the Wraith units once they'd attacked. Now it's a command phase boost that you put on a Spirit Host unit within 9 inches. They get +1 attack, and any Wraith Guard that you might have put it on also gain battle focus for that turn, so a bit of move shoot move. Seems like that's still a really nice combo with Wraith Blades, to be honest. A really decent boost to damage output on a character that's probably helping them out in another way already. Finally, their stratagem for 1 command point is Guided Wraith Sight. This one still remains revolving around the Spirit Seer, and apparently it basically allows the Spirit Seer to broadcast their Spirit Mark buff to any Spirit Host unit on the battlefield. From the Playtester Codex, the rumour is that the Spirit Host ability is rerolling 1s to wound, and it only applies to the Wraith Host core units, the Wraith Guard and the Wraith Lord. I suppose that could be kind of helpful if they wind up being really far away from each other, but 1 command point for rerolling 1s to wound isn't the most enormous buff ever. It'd have to be on a really big meaty unit to get good value out of it. Again, a fairly nice defensive buff. I do quite like the Citronome, but again maybe not one of my immediate favourites. Perhaps the Craftworld that I think is looking really powerful is Ulthwe. These grim black-clad seers get Foresight of the Damned as their trait. Previously it was a nice simple 6+ feel no pain, but it's now morphed into 4 different abilities, all of which are quite handy. All the units get to reroll 1 wound roll per attack, so a nice flat damage boost across the entire army there. Each time you cast a psychic spell, the first power that you cast each turn gets a nice +1 to cast benefit. That's super nice on Eldar, to be honest. I'd be very surprised if running at least a few Farseers and Warlocks aren't a good idea in the new book. Also, everyone in the whole army gets a 6+ invul save, which is helpful but maybe a little bit less so for Eldar than other places. A lot of their units do get an invul already. All the Aspect Warriors seem to have acquired one. The HQs and Warlocks already have one. It's only really going to have good effects on a few key units, say for example Guardians, which Ulthwe is kind of renowned for. Finally, as if that weren't enough, you also get a 5+ Strogoff against any Mortal Wounds. Mortal Wounds are seriously quite powerful in 9th edition, so getting extra defense against them is really nice. Between all of these, it does kind of feel like Ulthwe get it all. I'm guessing that it's going to be the one that the majority of strong Craftworld lists will come from after the Codex. Having 4 different useful buffs all rolled into one is really big. Otherwise, their Warlord trait is Fate Reader. That one allows you to retain 1 additional Strands of Fate dice. The mechanic at the moment is you roll 6 of them, then you keep 4 of them if it's say a 2000 point game, and it varies depending on the game size. It is pretty handy, but I will bear in mind that the 5th and 6th dice are likely to be the least useful ones, so I'm not really sure how strong that's going to be. Their Relic is a casting one. The Ghost Helm of Alaitoc allows the Psycho model to know an extra psychic power, and also any casts of a 9+ are undeniable. The big casting number is kind of handy if you are facing things like Grey Knights or Thousand Suns, hopefully allowing you to get your most important power through. Finally, their stratagem for 1 CP is the Discipline of the Black Guardians. This one gives you a +1 to hit with any Guardians unit. I believe that this will apply to the Guardians, Storm Guardians and Windrider jet bikes, all of which I think could be taken in enough numbers to make that CP really worth it. Certainly seems like a big unit of Guardians, Webway striking in and then firing off all those new improved shuriken shots could be really quite intimidating with that. To be honest though, all the other bits aside, I think that the trait alone really sells Ulthwe quite well. They do look like the Craftworld to beat. Moving on, we come to the Wild Riders of Saim-Hann. Their Craftworld attribute is Wild Host. It still gives you a reroll to charge with any units, though it swapped its ability of Bikers ignoring modifiers to allowing you to fall back and charge as well. They're both quite nice quality of life things that will help out melee units, though it's a bit of a shame that they don't get at least some sort of increased damage with that. Their Warlord trait is Wild Rider Chieftain. This gives them +1 attack and a 6-inch heroic intervention. I'm hoping there might be some other stronger Warlord traits for melee builds in the Codex, but I guess an extra attack really doesn't hurt if it's made with a laser lance or something. But still maybe doesn't sound like the strongest investment. Perhaps the Relic I think is a bit more interesting, the Talisman of Tion Shah. It means that if you charge or make a heroic intervention, then you get +1 strength, +1 damage, and an extra AP -1 on your attacks. If we are going full on Saim-Hann and we go for an Autarch Skyrunner, that should be 5 attacks at strength 7, AP -4 and flat damage 3. Really quite a brutal punch coming out of a fast moving character. Finally, their stratagem for 1 command point is Warriors of the Raging Winds. This one has technically got a little bit worse. It allows Saim-Hann bike units to advance and charge, but they no longer get any combat rerolls when they do so. To be honest, it's not really that much of a nerf. It's still like crazy threat range and a whole load of threatening units. When you bear in mind that you're re-rolling the charge roll, I believe it's something like an average 30-inch threat range for a unit of Shining Spears here, and with the amount of destruction that they can put out, that's pretty terrifying being able to jump straight from one deployment zone to another and cause carnage. Overall, I feel that Saim-Hann is probably one that you would be tempted by if you're using loads of melee units. Maybe the single strongest thing for them is that massive long-range threat with the jet bike charge. Finally, we come to Biel-Tan. The militant Craftworlds attribute is Sword Wind. Previously, it was a shuriken weapon boost. Now it's both a mobility and damage buff. When you roll for advanced moves or battle focus rolls, 1 to 2 inches counts as 3 inches instead. Quite nice reliable insurance against rolling low, particularly for battle focus. It means that you can exactly plan out where your unit's going to be and then where it's going to move to, knowing that you won't roll less than a 3. It still won't help you move through terrain with battle focus at all. 3 inches minus 3 is still 0, but good if you are actually able to make use of it normally. Rerolling a single hit per attack doesn't hurt either. Generally, single hit rerolls are a tiny bit less powerful than single wound rerolls, but it's still certainly nice to have. Some of their other stuff does seem really quite good though. Their Warlord trait is Natural Leader. In the command phase, you pick one core unit within 6 inches, and that unit can reroll all rolls to hit this turn. That one is just a spectacularly powerful Warlord trait, basically a chapter master for the cost of a Warlord trait. If you are playing Biel-Tan, it's pretty much an auto-include, and it's really nice that it's not limited to autarchs or anything like that, so you could still put this on a Farseer that's going to be dealing out other buffs. Very solid indeed, that one. It sounds like some of the biggest recipients of that could be things like Wraithguard or Wraithblades, which are rumoured to be core, though just about anything else is going to be useful, whether it's Swooping Hawks or Dark Reapers or anything else. Otherwise, their relic is the Spirit Stone of Anathlan. This one's another nice psychic buff. You get to know an extra power from your discipline, and you get to reroll 1 failed test per turn. Certainly seems like a good one for saving you a few command rerolls. Seems like it's quite likely to come up at least once or twice in game. Finally, their stratagem for 1 command point is Wrath of the Shrines. This gives 1 unit of Aspect Warriors exploding 6s to hit, so usually that's going to be a 25% increase to their damage. Seems pretty solid to me, particularly in conjunction with that Natural Leader trait, which could give you the chance of getting a few more 6s. It'll be interesting to see which Aspect Warriors see the most play, but seems like it's going to be good on basically any of them, particularly if you choose to take any of them in large units. Overall, I think that Biel-Tan also look really quite solid. They do seem like really quite another good generalist one like Ulthwe. The battle focus thing is nice, the rerolls are good, their Warlord trait is absolutely excellent, and their stratagem seems handy if you are using Aspect Warriors. So overall, I think my favourite's Ulthwe followed by Biel-Tan, probably a bit ahead of the rest in my opinion. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments though. Which ones are looking the most exciting to you at the moment? I'm certainly looking forward to covering the Aeldari Codex in full once it's out, so feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see that. I'll certainly try and get a video out on it as soon as the rules come out. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page, which you can find down in the video description below. Making all this content does take a fair amount of time and effort, and if you are enjoying regularly, then any support is enormously appreciated. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with the chance to win some really big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, then the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.